All right, let's continue through here. So I'm actually going to be using new research Hermes 2 model, which is a newer model that just came out, 7 billion parameter model. A little less capable, but it's very high tuned specifically for doing function based calling. And since a lot of our agentic systems tend to use uh, these types of techniques using JSON passing back and forth or JSON objects and dictionaries, this is probably a good model for that. And we're going to kind of give that a try. So first thing is we're going to start our server up, and then we're going to go ahead and begin running our sequence. So when you're doing this, probably it's going to take about, I'm thinking 8 to 10 minutes probably to finish its tasks and activities. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of come in here and add some commentary as we go to kind of show you kind of what's unique about these types of solutions versus just pure calling the API or doing something like that, right? So you're using a large language model, and it really is adapting to the questions and the answers and the data that it's finding. And along the way, it's creating a plan essentially to figure out what should the agents be doing and what other tasks are necessary in order to complete it. So a lot of this self-correcting behavior is early in its infancy right now. Like, you're not going to get a ton of this self-correcting behavior to do the things that you want them to do perfectly, right? And in addition to that, response times are going to extremely vary based upon what you're connecting to, how complex the question is, what was passed into the tasks and activities. And this is why it's a good idea, like I mentioned previously, to use tools like Langsmith to trace the discussion pool between these different objects and how they're talking with each other. This will help you to understand what specifically is going on at the different call sequences. So we've already queued up a few here. They're just not showing up yet because the crew is still parsing them and thinking through them in the background here. But we can clearly see that my RAM usage is up and my CPU usage is up. So questions are happening, analysis is happening. It's already decided to go in. You can see here, it's like I should start searching the internet to find healthcare industries. Immediately you can see the power of that happen here as it's going through using the SERP tools that I added to it. And it looks like it's moving along pretty decent. And if you go back again to what we talked about, is our objective was to understand by net worth potentially. So it's looking at all the data out there. Now, just like any other system, it's only as powerful as the data that it has, and it can only make decisions and inferences and predictions based upon that, right? So you can tie in your own APIs, your own data pools. If you have a business and your business is specifically working in this data, you can do that as well. And that's where I see a lot of these agentic adaptive AI solutions working for internal business processes as well on your own data. You could have a reg database that is created from this data as you're building through it, or you could have this looking at your own existing data subset and looking for trends and analysis. There's a number of things that we can do. Now we're going to do something very simple here, of course, and it's just going to write a blog post about what data is in there. Now, I never take this raw stuff that comes output as a final answer. I still want to make sure that the sources are cited, that we eliminate hallucinations, and we look to make sure that the content exists for these pieces. I then actually take a lot of this stuff myself, if I'm doing this technique in this particular instance, and I recompile it in a couple different tools, analyze it a couple different ways, right? So does this save time from a research perspective? Absolutely. But it's not the end-all be-all solution. You're still going to want to make sure that you look over things, do a smoke test, see how it reads. I don't expect this to be the final amazing output. I do expect a few more rounds of revisions, but it can certainly start the engines running in an area where you may be like, I don't know what to do next, or I don't know what to write on, or what's kind of hot out there in the industry of artificial intelligence, or what's new in the latest medical breakthroughs for why, is a personal tool and a personal research tool. It is extremely powerful because you can start to find data from all kinds of types across the entire ecosystem. You can see here now we've actually gone into another chain where we're going to start actually pulling in more data. It's starting to understand enough now where it believes that it can create a deeper understanding of the data that it's working with. You can see it's using a few different tools. Here it's just doing a whole bunch of searches across the web, trying to verify that this data is true. And I think we're almost done with the chain. It's actually doing a pretty good job. It's starting to move into the last agent. And one thing I didn't mention before is with Crew AI, you can have agents, structures, like I mentioned with the manager LLMs coming up, where you have one manager that acts kind of to control the whole flow, control flow. Or you can do sequential. So sequential would be like, first do this, then do that, etc. So like for another example, while this is still building, is I built a Crew system out that will go out, do its research, and determine the process flow for any workflow you can imagine. It will research what is the workflow, what are actions taken in the workflow, how does that workflow break down, what tools are needed, etc., etc. And in addition to that, it generates at the end of the process, it generates a diagram flow chart showing me basically what's involved in that. Now, is that the final solution? No, certainly not. But for areas that I might not be familiar with, it's a great starting point, because then I can start to ask questions about, hey, is this really what the next part of the flow is? From a research perspective, it amplifies the ability to ask questions quicker, because you get a little bit deeper into the information here. So we can see it actually encountered its first error. Let's see if it recovers from that error. And this is where the amazing part of adaptive AI systems and agentic solutions come in, is it's made that determination that it's trying to read the blog post file, but it doesn't find it. It's not there. So it's like, well, let's go ahead and create a Python function to list all of the files in there. And it's like, oh wait, it doesn't exist. So it's still trying to list that, and then it's like, oh, I don't see it. Okay, now it's like, hey, I've got some more information back. I think I can write this correctly, and it's done. So if we take a look at the end solution folder here, blog posts, all right, you can see we have the start of a blog post. Now, this is just the beginning. There's so much more you can do with this particular post, right? I can add more details to it. I could add pedantic commentary to it, and I could build it so much more than what it is right now. So I wanted to give you kind of an overview of how that structure is working, and actually I was pretty fascinated with this model. In future episodes, I plan to go into some more detail on some more use cases on how you can use these tools in a number of more sophisticated ways. But this was really meant to give you an understanding, kind of what do these tools do, how might they be used, and what are the solutions that they could apply for. So I'm Preston McCauley. Thank you again. And I'll be back with more episodes on other topics. And if you'd like to see other topics, please let me know. Have a great day.